So good afternoon, class. For this afternoon, we're going to talk about verbal creativity. What is verbal creativity? According to Torrance, 1969, recognized creativity as important for the development of a fully functioning, mentally healthy, well-educated, and vocationally successful individual. Scott as well mentioned that, and he cited that creativity related skills can be improved by providing specific rules, techniques, or strategies to develop appropriate cognitive skills for the domain at hand. And this could be realized through creative ideation trainings or divergent exercise and um, and a lot more. Now let's go to divergent thinking. Now, divergent, if you have divergent, there is also has what we call convergent thinking. Now, what's the difference between these two? Now, divergent thinking is that you are for example, you have a problem. You are thinking and analyzing a lot of ways to solve that specific problems. On the other hand, convergent thinking is all about focusing on one solution only, on a specific problem. That is the difference between these two. Now, what is divergent thinking? Divergent thinking is a useful concept for identifying, supporting, measuring creativity as a process to actualize oneself and manipulate internal and external symbols as creation of illustrative ideas based on his or her knowledge senses regarding people and objects to produce on. Now, what it says here that it is very crucial for us to know how to think and how to create and analyze and to conceptualize these ideas in our mind that can be lead to beautiful ideas and as well as knowledge senses regarding people and objects. Meaning, what we create, what we think, we can make it into a reality, and it can be used in a real life settings. Now, let's go to 4 components of divergent thinking. Now, the first one is fluency. The fluency here is that the total number of ideas, options, solutions generated for an open-ended problem. Meaning, the total number of ideas you are, as I mentioned earlier, that divergent thinking is when you are actually thinking a lot of ways to solve or to clear that specific problem, and you are not focusing on one problem only. The number 2 is flexibility. Now, here in divergent thinking, as I mentioned earlier, you are not focusing on one ideas only. For example, you are making arts. Now, you are thinking how to do it in a various methods or various ways. Now that's how is flexibility here in divergent thinking. Now, number 3 is originality. The originality aspect of created or invented works as is about statical infrequency of responses related to the task compared with original ideas. Here in divergent thinking, you are making your own ideas and you have a originality, meaning there is no imitation involved here, meaning you are creating your own ideas, techniques, methods, and other. The number four is elaboration, the ability to expand or an idea with details and ability to create an intricate plan. Now, what do you mean by intricate plan? Here, no, in elaboration, no, the ability to expand, meaning here in divergent, no, thinking, you are not focusing on very very short information. You are thinking wide open, meaning you are thinking a lot of ways, ideas, how to do it. You can explain it, you can express it in many ways rather, and details and the ability to create an intricate. What do you mean by intricate? Now, intricate is very critical, and another way of saying that intricate is it's not simple, meaning it's difficult. That's what intricate means. Now, let's go for aesthetics. Now, Britannica defines aesthetics, also spelled as aesthetics, as the philosophical study of beauty and taste. Meaning, as we all know, that aesthetic is how we appreciate the, what do you call this, the things that we see. In perspective, it is an interesting and puzzling realm of experience, the realm of beauty and the ugly, sublime and the elegant, of taste, criticism, and fine arts, and of contemplation, sensuous, enjoyment, and charm. And let's go for the nature and scope of aesthetics. Now, there are two nature and scopes of aesthetics. Aesthetics does not only with nature and value of arts, but also with those responses to natural objects that find expression in the language of beautiful and ugly. The terms beautiful and ugly are too vague and application and too subjective meaning. As we all know that when we see a thing or a specific object or arts, we are actually the external and internal criticism is there. Now, when you see an object in your own perspective, as we all know, we all have a different types and preferences in our life. Example, I see this what do you call this, a flower or something art. I will say, oh, that is beautiful, and the other people won't agree to me, and that's okay, because we all have this kind of appreciation in arts, wherein you may find it beautiful, but others will not or could not agree with you, and that is one of the scope of aesthetics. Now, number two is everything on earth may be perceived as beautiful by someone from his or her point of view, while different people may use the word differently. That often may have a little or nothing in common, but all are simply based on judgment. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is what I'm saying. Now, the judgment or the criticism of a person in a particular art or in a judgment on art is always or almost opinion, or what they call this, based on a judgment, meaning it's on their own opinion and perspective. Yeah. And last one, the nature and the scope of aesthetics. Moreover, In spite of the emphasis of philosophers on terms beautiful and ugly, aesthetics become an insignificant issue for discussion, description, or what appeals in nature. Just like when appreciating a poem, it can be described as ironic movie. Now, it says here, no, the terms beautiful and ugly aesthetics become an insignificant when it comes to what? It becomes an issue, no? Let's continue. It says here, no, the beautiful and ugly aesthetics become an insignificant, meaning in arts, no, whether it's beautiful or not, it doesn't matter, insignificant, no. Sometimes, no, even if it's ugly, in the form of art, as a lot of people, considered it as a beautiful also, because it's based on their perspective that they see a potential, or they see a what do you call this, a beauty on that particular art, and as well as in the beauty. Now, just like when appreciating a poem, it can be described as ironic. Now, as we all know, poem is a very, very deep. No, we can't understand it in a literal meaning. Meaning, why is it? That's why in aesthetics, poem are considered or described as ironic moving. Why? Because poems are almost states the opposite meaning of its stated version, or what they call this, lines or stanzas. Meaning they are we can say that this in a poem, this particular words or phrase is not its what, is not its actual meaning, rather than it is a opposite from its meaning. Now, let's go to the 3 approaches to aesthetics. Number 1 is, it is a study of aesthetics concept, the meaning of language of criticism, in which particular judgment are singled out, their logic and justification are presented. Meaning, you can always be free on judgment and criticism in aesthetics. Meaning, they allow, or they allowed, and their judgment are singled out. Meaning, they are free to tell, no, in the aesthetics, and their logic and justification are presented. Number 2 is, it is a philosophical study of certain states of my responses, attitudes, and emotions that are involved in this aesthetic experience. Now, this is actually a big fact. Yes. Now, we can I don't think that we can all agree in this, because in my opinion, no, when it comes to aesthetic, like appreciating the beauty of things or specific things, it is common for us to have a different preferences. That's why it says here that there is a particular state in our mind that involves in aesthetic experience. Meaning,